Hello, everyone. Nolan West here. The pandemic is coming to a close, whether the agoraphobes want it to or not. We are vaccinating people in record numbers around the world. A lot of hay has been made about the vaccine rollout in the United States because, there's always people ready to denigrate our country because it makes them feel better about themselves. But the reality is, our vaccine rollout is going better than the rest of the world's almost entirely. Here in Minnesota, we've had some early issues, but we too are now distributing around 200,000 vaccine doses a week. The vaccines will end the pandemic. There is no new normal, there is only normal. With Dr. Fauci in the news saying it's possible Americans will be wearing masks well into 2022, people are understandably concerned because if drastically decreased cases, way less deaths, and vaccinations on a massive scale is not going to return us to our normal lives, what will? But if we look at the numbers and the actual data, we are undeniably in the home stretch. Nationwide, cases are down 77%. In Minnesota, we were looking at 8,000 new cases a day in the middle of November, but since then, it has steadily declined. There was no Christmas, New Year's, or Super Bowl bump that the fearmongers were panicked about. But fearmongers are never held responsible for their BS predictions, just like Governor Walz. As for deaths, we have a similar story. Daily deaths peaked at 101 on November 27th. That was the only day we ever broke triple digits. Deaths have steadily declined since. The last 2 weeks, in fact, we've averaged 11 deaths a day. And out of 42,205 cases, there have been two deaths of school-age children. No one should have any fear sending their kids back to school. We need them in school. So positive cases are way down, deaths are way down, and that brings us to the status of our vaccine distribution. And after a rough start, you can see here, we are now vaccinating well over 100,000 doses a week. We have 5.64 million people in Minnesota. And if we keep up this rate, which we likely will get even faster than this, we should be able to return to no restrictions in the summer. So far, we have 762,000 some people with at least one dose and 362,000 some who are fully vaccinated. That's 41.8% of our 65 plus population and 6.5% of our state's entire population already. Add in those who have natural immunity from being infected or they just had it. We have a substantial part of our population that is immune. In fact, there are those who will say we'll have herd immunity by April. And we've seen rapidly declining cases since January 8th. And Dr. Mockery of Johns Hopkins says that consistent decline can only be explained by natural immunity. And the pandemic is coming to a rapid close. It's undeniable. We can't declare victory yet, though, but all measures point to this being behind us by the end of the year. So when you hear people talk about restrictions continuing into next year, politely, and I mean politely, inform them that their claims are not backed up by the data. The idea that we shouldn't return to normal life until the risk is zero is delusional. We can't eliminate death. We've tried. It will always be with us. Our leaders need to remember they're governing a free people who can make their own decisions. We're not widgets to be manipulated at will. Free people accept restrictions on their rights when they are reasonable and time-gated. Indefinite restrictions with little data to back them up is just an excuse for politicians and bureaucrats to expand their own power at your expense. Right now, our governor is using the pandemic as an excuse to pursue his own political objectives. He even sent a letter to the legislature demanding policy concessions in exchange for him ending his emergency powers. Does that seem right to you? Is that what emergency powers are for? Of course not. Emergency powers are for immediate, time-sensitive emergencies like we had early in the pandemic, not political leverage. But we shouldn't be filled with rage. There is so much good news to celebrate. Cases and deaths are dropping rapidly, and vaccines are being distributed in record numbers. This dystopian nightmare is almost behind us. Remember, good news still exists even if the media doesn't want to highlight it. And more than ever, reject forever pandemic thinking. We are not meant to live like this.